do workshops on this stuff. And so this is something that we are passionate just because we've seen it change our lives so much. And we've seen that like you can't be spiritually healthy without having been emotionally healthy too. Like they go hand in hand. And we've seen so many times, like in our story, like I would try and connect with God, and like not that I wouldn't have good times, but it was almost like once things got unlocked and walls started coming down in my heart, like I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even know there was this much more that I could experience with God, because you just don't know what you don't know. And so being emotionally healthy is vital to having connection with God, and like having that depth that I feel like we all are like hungry for, and we want to have the depth with God, but sometimes there's just things that get in the way of that.
Mm-hmm. And really, though this isn't our main focus, you could even say that they all affect each other. So like you have the spiritual health thing, and we get a lot of teaching on that. There's the emotional or inner world health. You could just say like your soul, if you want to, like your soul health, because it's more than just emotions, but that's a huge part of it. But even your physical health, I mean, they all affect each other if you think about it. Like if you're dealing with sickness all the time, or there's something like that, and we're not talking about salvation, not that level, but like your spiritual health is affected by your physical health. Like if you're struggling with sickness or sleep deprivation, I mean, that's going to affect things, not because God's not there anymore because of that, but like your ability to connect and be disciplined in life, you know, like that's just how things work. So that's all connected. So it's like you have to pay attention to each part in its own place. And so like Gina said, one of the things we are passionate about, because we've walked through a lot of this stuff and we've got some revelation on it, is the emotional health side and the soul area, I guess you could say. Yeah, not that we know everything, of course. We're still learning too, but we have walked through quite a bit of stuff.
Yes. And I would say, and you can go into this too, but the one thing that he will say and is that when people often, and I can say this how I feel quite a lot, when you start going into this process, you can come into it as I am broken and I need to be fixed. Like I'm having pain and I need this fixed. It's like, you know, if you hurt yourself, that's what we do. Like I have a boo-boo. And we have kids. But that's just your response. Like it's a natural response. But one thing that I have been learning is that we are not broken. God didn't create us broken. We're not broken. But we do need to be uncovered. When life happens, when pain happens, when we get hurt or there's trauma that happens, it covers us up. And so pain is actually this amazing indicator that there's something wrong, like something is going on. It's like a check engine light. When that starts happening, like it's an indicator that something is going on. And it's actually amazing how our bodies can actually indicate the same thing. Sometimes you'll have physical response to something going on internally. Like, I'm not going to go into all the science, but it
would be here for a long time.
It would be here, yeah. But it actually is very much linked with physical things. A lot of times you have stuff going on internally that you keep burying and burying and burying, and your body is like screaming at you, like pay attention, like get curious, find out what's going on. But oftentimes we don't pay attention to that because either we don't know like what we're looking for or like what to do with that. So you are not broken and you don't need to get fixed. if you're looking for the fix, you're actually never going to figure out what the main issue is. Like, if your check engine light goes on and you're just like, it just needs an oil change, we're good. And I know nothing about cars, but you're just going to keep having engine problems because you're not actually figuring out what the main thing is. So
yeah, it's kind of like, which this is just normal for humanity. When you experience pain, you do what you can to stop feeling pain.
Because it's not fun.
Because it's not fun, but the problem is when you're not doing it and I'll just say the right way, if you're just avoiding pain or stopping it, like, versus finding what the cause is and actually dealing with it, it's a totally different thing. I mean, if you're just avoiding it, you're just going to keep experiencing it over and over again, in some way. Now, this is it's connected, but it's not the same example. But like, one thing would be, if you're having sleep issues, could it be that there's just a lot of like stress and emotional things or relationship things or whatever that's not being dealt with, and it's actually affecting your sleep life? And our response in today's world would be, well, maybe just lay off the caffeine, which might be a good idea, and take a sleeping pill, versus actually being curious and discovering what might actually be going on. And usually you can kind of tell when stuff's going on and you're just avoiding it. That's very normal. But so that's just an example of like avoiding it and just putting a mask on it versus actually like getting it healed.
For me, like, I feel like my go-to things whenever there's like pain or there's things going on internally for me, I go like clean mode and
like cleaning the house.
Yeah, cleaning, and like almost this like frenzy of like, I feel super overwhelmed. I like feel anxious, like the not nice mom comes out and I'm like yelling at the kids, or like everything is bothering me. And that it used to just be how I lived life. That was normal. And now that is an indicator of, hey, something's going on. I need to actually sit down and think, like, ask God about this and figure out what it is, because that is an indicator, hey, you have some pain and you're trying to run away from it.
For me, I think you can correct me. For me, it's generally I get quiet and snippy.
Right, which is another way of like, there's different ways we avoid pain. We numb it. And I think something to realize is that like, you're doing the best that you can do. You know, people, we only know what we know, and I do believe like we're doing the best that we know how. And so maybe you've had ways of coping with pain, and that's just what you've known. And so don't allow shame to jump into this and like make you feel bad about that, because you're doing the best that you know how. And so I'm actually going to connect this now to something that I feel like is vital, and a little plug. We will be sharing more about this in our upcoming workshop. But so let's just say you have had ways of coping with pain. Maybe you've like kind of known there's something going on, and maybe you drink a lot, and that is the way that you have known to cope with pain. Instead of what would be like our norm would be, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe I've done that. Like, I feel so bad about that. Like, how could I have done that? Like, instead of allowing shame to actually dictate what happens, there is something called compassion. And it is this amazing God-given, I don't even know what you'd call it. It's compassion. If you look it up in the Bible, it is everywhere. Like, Jesus so many times would show people compassion, before he ever did anything. So like with healing, like he felt compassion and then he would heal people. It's like over and over and over in the Bible. And compassion is like the weapon for shame. And if you can get yourself to a place where you can...
Against shame.
What did I say?
We said like for shame, but it could just be taken weird.
Oh, yeah. Against shame. I can't think of the word right now, but if you can get yourself to a place where you can actually have compassion on yourself for where you're at, compassion it's like a substance. It's not just this like lovey-dovey, it's not sympathy. It's not just saying, oh, I'm so sorry you're in that position. Like compassion is this deep substance of love that actually says, I see you and I'm with you. I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm going to sit with you in this mess. And so in that situation of if you have been dealing with a lot of pain and covering it up and maybe using alcohol to cover that up
or anything,
it literally, there's so many ways we numb or cope with pain. And some of them, most people would say, oh, that's like totally fine. Like diet and exercise, same kind of thing. It can be totally fine and healthy, but if you're using it to cope with pain, that's like not good. So, but compassion says, I see you, I hear you, I'm with you in your mess. And so you can actually have compassion on yourself and see yourself where you're at, and even like thanking the coping mechanisms that you have had to deal with your pain, because that's all you've known. And actually just being okay with sitting in the mess with yourself. Like that is like such a weapon, like such a God-given weapon we have to care for ourselves, show love to ourselves in like the deepest form. It's so powerful, and it's such a powerful tool to use with other people, because most of us only know how to show like sympathy, and we're actually afraid of showing compassion because we don't want to enable people, which compassion is not enabling people. Compassion actually gives people permission to not be perfect, and it actually like allows them room to change because they're feeling seen and feeling known, and which is extremely powerful.
So our workshop is Lazarus Heart, and it is January 22nd at Grace Christian Church. You can register on our gracesterling.com, the event page. You'll find it on there, and yeah, so come out. It's from 9:30 to 12:30 on a Saturday, January 22nd.
And so we'll be talking about finding language for all of the emotions and how they interact together.
With kind of the overall point of it is just to kind of dive into like what's God's actual intention with emotions and like how we deal with them, and even how we relate to him, because which we have lived this, living with your emotions being mostly rejected or treated as wrong or not knowing what to do with them. Actually, I mean, it hurts all areas of your life, including your relationship with God. Mm-hmm. And receiving healing in those areas and freedom actually not only opens you up for just life being better, but like your relationship with God, I would honestly say it shoots it to the moon, like in the best way. So come to that, but to reconnect all of this, because there's a lot here, to the year and the glory and that stuff, which we kind of touched on, but to kind of wrap it up, it's just one aspect. So we talked about emotions a lot just now and that kind of thing. But really with anything, so this going from glory to glory and what that means, it means a lot of things. It's not, there's really no way to give just like a clear cut, this is what it is and this is what it looks like. But many of you may have discovered this already. But when it comes to going from glory to glory and you're beholding Jesus with unveiled face, and it's the reflecting him, and like the glory is the substance of his goodness and so much more. To do that though, it's him leading you through, if you want to call it, I mean, this probably isn't the best way to sum it up, but like stages of healing. Because from the moment you're born, you're trained a certain way, not necessarily intentional, but just through life. And we learn things not well often, even, especially in the area of emotions, whether through your parents or whoever raised you, or through religion, all kinds of stuff that just teaches you things that often are wrong. We have these beliefs, and so what God does from the point, like you could say from the point of salvation, is God is constantly drawing you in by his Spirit and through his word to like reveal your mindsets that don't line up with him.
Yeah.
And so like the mindsets, like these are beliefs that aren't based on truth. And so you could call it unbelief. You could call it believing in lies, all kinds of stuff. And so going from glory to glory requires something of us. It doesn't just happen. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the point of like this year and what we believe God is speaking as it's a year of glory and a lot of other things. But this going from glory to glory, and we've experienced his glory, but there's more. So we believe there's far more, and more that we're going to experience through this year. But that doesn't mean it's just going to be a wild party of, if you've ever been in like an awesome service or something where like his presence shows up and you're experiencing his glory. Like that's awesome, but that's not going to be the whole year. And hopefully we experience more of that and at greater levels. I believe we will. But the going from glory to glory and being transformed into his image, it takes something of us. It requires something of us. And one area, which is what we highlighted tonight, is the emotional side, like the inner world, your soul and your emotions, and actually learning how to step into freedom in that. Because though he has set us free, it is not an automatic thing that in all areas of your life you are walking in freedom. And it's more than just saying the right things. It's more than just reading the word a whole lot. It's more than going to church all the time. It requires something of you, and it requires being faced with the areas that you need healing in, and being brave and saying yes to him. Mm-hmm. So that might have been a lot of stuff. I don't know. But glory, it's going to be a year of glory, and yeah.
And if you have any questions, you can comment them, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. But make sure you come out to Lazarus Heart if this is like piquing your interest, or you feel like, man, I want to like get free and learn more. Like, we're going to be doing activations and things to create space with you and God to just deal with your stuff with him, because he knows he is like the most gentle person, and he doesn't just stir everything up and cause it to be real crazy. He knows how to get your attention, and he's super gentle. So
we good?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging with us.
Thanks.
All right.
All right.
See ya.